Hello, YouTube, and all of my YouTube subscribers that like to watch my rambles. It is time once again for me to do this. It's been too long since my last ramble, because these are therapeutic for me. I don't know if they're therapeutic for you. They probably help you get through, some 3-hour long raid in World of Warcraft. But for me, this is like all the therapy I'm going to get. Because I just do. And I don't stop enough to do this. I've been doing them roughly once a week in the past. But, yeah. So, first off, before everybody switches over to their World of Warcraft screen and just listens to me talk as if this was a podcast, this came in the mail for me from the Frugal Gamer. Alan, longtime friend of mine. And I will put it up on the wall over here. He also got me this. It's a bumper sticker. It got a little bent right here in the mail, and the thing that it came in said "do not bend," and it was like obviously bent, but it will stick flat. I might stick it inside of a book or something to flatten it first, but yeah, it's a play on that whole coexist thing. It says toxic. Yeah, that's beautiful. This is the quick way for me to get my windows smashed in this town. But I'll just put it inside this book here. My giant NEC book. Everybody know how big the NEC is? It's like 25 pounds. So, where to begin? I'm going to write all the things that I'm talking about on this piece of paper. It's blank. Normally I start out with topics, but this is like the reverse. This is just getting it all out and writing it down as I do it. So yeah, I've done a lot of Occupy videos lately for the past 4 months, and I've seen viewership of them decline. And as people quit caring about Occupy, they quit watching the videos, I guess. They want to see what they originally subscribed to me to see. And I just put up 2 videos. One was about me transferring the domain of occupyutah.org to the Salt Lake City protesters, because I only got it to keep it from being squatted. And that video was unlisted on somebody's YouTube channel. I mirrored it so that everyone could see what I was doing, and it got like 30 views in 24 hours. The one right before it was a 25-second road sign of religious stupidity, number 176, and that got 125 views. So 4 times as many people want to see me react to religion on this channel than want to see me talk about Occupy. And that's okay. I'm probably just going to keep on doing videos on whatever I want to do. But let's see how to approach this subject. A lot of the Occupy protesters that were part of the core, the backbone, they call it a leaderless movement, but I'm going to say that they were doing their best to give it some leadership. They've left in my city, and it happened pretty quickly that they all just left. And Let's see, leaders left. One of the reasons was the main Occupy Facebook page for our city, Occupy Colorado Springs, was hijacked. What happened was a bunch of people said that the people who were admins on that page weren't censoring the right things and they weren't moderating the right way. And so it started with a proposal to adopt the same moderation policies as other Occupy groups. And it came up during a vote night in their general assemblies, and they voted that in. And then, the people who were moderating the page, me included, continued to not censor people the way that they wanted people to be censored. In their perspective, not moderate. So their next tactic, that block of people that, if you haven't seen it in my videos previously, there's been two different factions of cliques of people that just they can't heal this rift that they have. So what they did was they voted that a whole bunch of other people should be administrators of that Facebook page. And every, I guess, splinter Facebook group. But that one was actually beholden to people who were part of the Occupy group. The other groups, like Occupy Liberty and Occupy Colorado Springs the Group, or OCS Action Page, or We the People, or all these other splinter groups, those were all created and owned by other people. But the one main page, people were kind of beholden to the group vote, even though they would have been opposed to it had they been there that vote night. You see, not everyone shows up for every meeting. So the admins for that page went from 7 to 12, I think, overnight. And then another 3 got voted in another day. And it took about a week for one of those people who wasn't an admin before to just private the entire admins list so that no one could see who was the admin, and then kick all the other admins out to wrest control of the 3,300 people who had liked that page, and thereby be able to steer it in the direction that they wanted it to go. So when that happened, Christy, one of the original people who was there from day one, and Haas, you've seen Haas in my videos a lot, both of them had had enough of the infighting, and they decided to go do their own things. Christy is the local president of the Moms for Marijuana chapter, the Pikes Peak region, and Haas is doing his own thing as well. But yeah, there were a lot of people that were part of their friends clique who, when that happened, they consider it such a spitting in their face for all the work that they had done that they decided they're not going to come to the meetings either. And so for a week and a half, I continued to go to the Occupy meetings, and basically I was holding out judgment on who did it. I didn't know who did it, but it really did seem like there was a group of people who didn't care. They were beyond it. They're past that. Oh, we're already past that. Let's just talk about action. What are we going to do? And I posted a day and a half after the page was hijacked that anyone who used that page to create an event, for people to be able to attend as it had been used before, they would be tipping their hat as to who they were. I would know right away that somebody had created an event, and I could, look at the people who had joined the event first and narrow it down after time, and I would know exactly who it was that wanted to wrest control of the Occupy group for themselves. This leaderless movement. So, as it turns out, yesterday somebody made a event, and I was invited to that event by somebody who had not joined the event yet, and there were 9 people who were already joined to it by the time that I saw it. They all joined really quickly. But I took a screenshot of it, and it was the people that I suspected but didn't want to admit to myself that they would do something like that. Because the rift that they just basically poured lemon juice on this wound, it tore the group apart, And one of the reasons why I was denying, I was in denial, was the nearly $1,300 worth of support I raised on my YouTube channel for this group and for their protesting. And I didn't want to think that they were misusing my efforts and other people's money that I helped raise to do this stuff. So, yeah. If you haven't noticed, I haven't done a supply run to them this year yet, and I do have a chip-in set up, but I don't know what I'm going to do. I feel completely obligated, to keep at it, but at the same time, I see what happened. I see who it was that pushed half of the protesters away, maybe more, and effectively destroyed the backbone of the group. And they're the people who are still using the Occupy name. So, what to do, So, that's where I'm at with Occupy right now. I told them that if they don't see me supporting stuff, it's because I know who did it and I know why they did it. You could probably look on Facebook and find the Occupy groups that aren't being censored by the main page. The posts that I put on the main page have been hidden or deleted, one of the two. I was kicked from it. So it's what to do. So I was working on something that this brainchild of mine was basically a way to get around the freedom of speech rules that were going to be imposed on the Occupy protesters, because whatever law that the police say that they're breaking, it's not being applied evenly to other people. The day after their tents came down, Nick got arrested in front of City Hall for having a table set up, and when they told him it was in the public walkway, he moved it to the grass, and he still got arrested. And, I think having a table to be able to put your flyers on is kind of necessary, and a lot of other people do it. But it's the people with political messages that are getting censored here. Church groups that are passing out food in the same park are not being harassed. You know, it's just the unfavorable political messages that are against the people who are in power that get censored like that. So I was looking for a way around that. Something that would legally protect these protesters in what they were doing. And I got an idea. This was before New Year's. It kind of happened right before Christmas. That I thought that we should be more politically active, not less. A lot of people said that we needed to keep it out of politics because it would be a quick way for the group to get co-opted. But I kind of disagree with that. I think being politically active is important. And I also thought that we should talk directly to voters, and tell them, hey, if this, person that's in office is in favor of limiting freedom of speech, then maybe you should vote him out of office and use the vote. And the people left the Occupy group now, they are pretty much of the mindset that they should not do any political thing whatsoever, that votes get the vote tallies get changed all the time, that you can't even trust the vote, voting is meaningless, all that. But I kept looking into the subject, and I found that one of the ways that they could be protected in what they were doing was to become a voter registration drive. And so I kept on looking into it, and I saw that you don't need a permit from the city to go door to door. And they could pass out whatever information they want along with registering people to vote if they are a voter registration drive. And cops that might stop them from trying to register people to vote would get charges brought on them, because there's special laws about this. Especially if they've already registered one person and they have that person's voter registration card in their suitcase and they're walking door to door registering people, then they're on the way to turn it into the county clerk. And if they get stopped on the way and harassed, when they already have someone registered, it's even more worse for the police officers. So I thought that this would be a good way to get around permit issues, and allow them to leave permitted areas. And right after New Year's, we see in the newspaper, and we see a couple reports from a few different stations, that there are freedom of speech zones being talked about by the city. And the city council had a closed session meeting about them the day before the appeal for the protesters' permit was going to be decided. Basically, if they would have decided about those free speech zones in favor of them, it would have made the protesters' appeal moot. And pushing the protesters' appeal back 2 months basically gave them the opportunity to brainstorm, like, how can we not let them have this permit back? It was evil, And so the day of the permit, the thing that I've already told you about, the snubbing of the hijacking of the Occupy Facebook page happened, and that had a very big impact on Christy Wheeler's decision to withdraw her appeal, because her name was on the permit in the first place. Hers, Haas, and Jason. Jason had walked away from the movement the day that the tents came down, basically because of the sentiment of half the people there, the half that are still there, that they didn't want the permitted area because it was creating leaders. You know, because if anything illegal happened, it was Jason's responsibility to keep illegal things from happening in that permitted area. He was responsible for that permitted area, and that responsibility creates sort of authority. So half the protesters didn't want that, but Christie put in the appeal. Haas's name wasn't on the appeal, and when she got kicked out off of the admin page and someone hijacked it, and half the protesters there didn't, they either didn't care or they knew and they were pretending like they didn't care. She decided to walk away from the group, you know, and that was hard for me to take. You know, all these friends that I made on both sides of this rift, half of them had been pushed away by the other side of this rift. And I understand the other side. You know, you don't ask for permission from the people you're protesting if you can protest them. You know, and that is their very good point. But you also need tents if you're going to protest. Tomorrow it's going to be 10 degrees at 6 a.m. The reason why there won't be any protesters on that corner is because it's 10 degrees at 6 a.m. In fact, the protesters that are calling themselves Occupy, that are still occupying, do a lot of protesting for 2 or 3 hours in places and not a lot of occupying anything. They meet Cafe Corto, at Shove Chapel. You know, they have meetings and they talk, and it's great what they're coming up with, and the protests that they do come up with are awesome. But I suppose every Occupy group is different, and while these protesters have declared that it is too cold to go out and maintain a presence on that corner, the New York protesters just went back into Zuccotti Park again. So, you know, they're braving the cold. But the reason why our protesters can't is because if they set up a tent, they will be arrested. So that's where we're at. You know, the permit allowed for those 5 canopy tents and would have allowed for some warmth for people to stay there and maintain it. And anyways, Christy left when she got kicked as an admin. That was like the last straw. She was pissed off previously because of all of the different directions that our group was going protesting. I kept following it because it was interesting, and I can see beyond the argument that this is not Occupy. You know, if they want to protest Walmart and they have some grievances against Walmart, their protest against Walmart is not a problem for me. You know, it's the issue is that they maybe should have a I hate Walmart group, not an Occupy group. It's actually been since that backbone and leadership of the group left, that it's been since then that anyone has occupied a bank at all, you know. And when that group tried to steer them back on course and get them to concentrate on something positive, and well, positive and part of Occupy. You know, part of the core message. They chose a house that was going to be foreclosed, and the rift remained. All of the protesters that stayed at that foreclosed home, for the most part, were on one side of the rift, and the other ones were saying, no, we're not having General Assembly at that foreclosed house. It's still at this cafe where we've had it always. And yeah, I've dealt with people dying from cancer in my family recently, one by one, and I know what a slow death looks like, and I've basically been watching a movement dying of cancer, and it's that inability to support each other's things that they wanted to protest. So, where was I in this overarching thing? This is basically just behind the scenes Occupy drama that I didn't say to anyone before. I don't know. Big reason why I didn't come out in a video to say all this stuff was because I felt obligated to this group. Once, from the first fundraiser I did for them, I felt like, after having done a fundraiser and using somebody else's funds, I've got to fucking stay the course and not fucking abandon this over petty little bullshit, and not fucking air dirty laundry out on the fucking internet about this, I was angry at a lot of other people for airing dirty laundry on the internet about stuff, Anyways, the city council meeting that is just a few videos ago, like 6 days ago, I put up that video. Christie had already pulled her appeal, but for the reasons that Christie didn't want even if they gave her the permit back, she didn't want to be responsible for the protesters that are left, and the protesters that are left didn't want the appeal. So when you watch what I say in the beginning of it, it's really I tried to polish that turd by saying that they were all in agreement that they didn't want the permit, but in reality there were some people who did like the fact that we had the permit, and it was different from other Occupy situations to have that permit, but there we were. So the city council had prepared of their 311-page agenda a good portion of it for the appeals process for a quasi-judicial matter that at the last minute was just pulled from the docket, from their agenda. So I looked in that mass of things that they had prepared, and I found some corruption. And I decided, regardless of whether or not people wanted to go ahead with the appeal, those lies in there had to come out, especially the police overcharging for overtime that didn't work, which was obvious in my videos. I made my speech to city council, and then I went over to the FBI and let them know. They're probably going to let the IRS know. And that was a very nervous day for me. Even after it was all done, I didn't sleep that night because I was just like wired from what I did. I went to um, Shove Chapel, where they had a GA. This was 3 nights ago. And there was a fight that broke out between the remaining protesters that we have. And this fight was because one of them said that we should not be trying to speak kindly to soldiers, because soldiers are mostly trailer trash, white trash that like to piss on dead bodies. And looking around, there was a lot of veterans, one active duty soldier, and a couple of military wives in the crowd, of maybe 20 people in there. And it created such a stink that this guy was saying that basically this yelling match in a church, mind you, it didn't end until he left. And as he was leaving, he turned back to the group and he said, with his shouting voice, that if this group can't stand up against the war, this group isn't worth a shit. And then he left. And there were at least 2 other people that agreed with that sentiment with him. And unfortunately, every different perspective that comes to the Occupy group has the right, I guess, the privilege, or whatever you want to call it, to air their grievances at the General Assembly. Everyone's different perspective is supposed to be honored, and the perspective of the peace protesters in the middle of a town that's surrounded by military bases, it's pretty divisive, I don't know why it doesn't affect me as much, being a disabled vet, but I think I get just dismissive of anyone with that kind of sentiment. I just, I figure, well, we've got a few nuts. Everyone's obsessed with something. I like to direct people more towards action when they are thinking about having candlelight vigils or praying or something like that. I like to do action-oriented things. So, back to what I was trying to talk about before. An event got created by somebody in the remaining group. I did not know who it was when Haas and Christie got booted from the original OCS page, which was the last straw for them. And I said 2 days after that if anyone had posted an event, they would be found out, because you can trace pretty much who did it. And when I did that, I posted, because I was horrified at my findings, because it just basically painted that same rift all over again. They've been infighting for 3 months over the same issues. Same thing for 3 months, and it's driven about every protester who wants to be part of it away from going to their meetings. And when I saw who did it, I recognized this horrible, evil power grab. And I wanted no part of the group anymore. And I posted on the main page that it's obvious by that event that was just created for people to be able to join who it was that is the secret admin. and that I'm going to be putting my efforts elsewhere because I just cannot support what's going on. This divisiveness, this kicking people off of the main page, this it's not with the 99% mantra. It's not inclusive to disagree with someone and therefore kick them off of a page. It's not inclusive to censor things. And my post went a good, I'd say, 15 hours before someone in that admin secret group saw it and decided to delete or hide my post and then kick me from the page. So that's where I'm at. You know, drama has spoiled a good portion of the effort that I put into that group. Meanwhile, I continued on with my idea of a voter registration drive. Now, I had to wait until after New Year's because every December 31st in the state of Colorado, every voter registration drive loses their ability to be a voter registration drive. You have to recertify yourself every year. So, as all this drama was going on, my idea for this voter registration drive evolved, and I finally realized, after going to that constitutionalist Mike Haller's meeting and hearing what people had to say about it, and because he was a Tea Partier and all that, I realized that Occupy, the brand, and all the protesters are not the place where you go when you want to get people to be involved with anything like an election. Occupation protesting is where you go when you have lost all confidence in democracy. When you've tried it and it failed, and for you there is no other alternative but to do something that drastic as occupying. And I realized for myself that I'm not there yet. You know, I looked at how wonderful it would be for me to go ahead with this project, and and really when people say that the system's broken and that there's no use in voting, we tried that. I'm scratching my head and I'm like, well, did we? Did we try it? Because if you're saying that the election was stolen or something like that, fucking steal it back. You know, if it was that easy to steal it, with so many people not participating, get some people to participate. You know. When I see messages like Occupy the Vote or Occupy Congress, which will come up on the 17th, on Tuesday, I think. No, on Monday. Sorry. When I see a protest like Occupy Congress and Occupy the Vote, to me it's an oxymoron. You know, it's like you, on the one hand, are having confidence in the process, and then on the other hand, you want to thwart the process by occupying and choking to death anything that's going on in a particular area. You know? I suppose they want to storm Capitol Hill and just have everyone sit on every square inch and not let anything happen. That's not Um, that's not very conducive to democracy, you know. Um, but maybe they don't want what's happening with democracy, and I could see that point of view. You know, maybe they want to occupy it until they get the people that they want in there in. But really, occupation protesting is the antithesis to actually using the system. It's where you go when you believe that the system is beyond repair. And after all that I've seen, and in watching my caller's speech, in watching a few others, in watching the grassroots Ron Paul organizers trying to get his campaign to be able to fight the money of Mitt Romney. You know, dude's got like what 2 or 3 million to spend, and Romney's got like 40 or 50 million left at this point right now. It's like it well, Santorum's got less money and he's doing a lot better. So, but when I see people who are working so hard in their particular endeavors like that, you know, they haven't given up hope, and I saw their reasonings for not giving up hope that people's voice will be heard in the system that we have, instead of completely tearing down the system that we have and creating some sort of communist regime where we barter, and going back to not just a gold standard but regional currency and trading chickens for whatever, you know. And part of this is just my natural tendency towards skepticism. Um, I've followed them down the rabbit hole for a lot of these different theories that they have as to why the government is broken, and every time it ends in Illuminati or Bilderberger or Trilateral or anything like that, I just go, wow, oh no, you know, why am I here? What got me here? You know, I want to actually effect change that is well directed. And yeah, I don't think that a leaderless movement is something that I need to be a part of anymore for my own good, because I've seen how destructive it is when people are always screaming, down with the king, and then immediately there's a new king. You know? I'm just not feeling it, you know? So, after the first, I completed training for my voter registration drive. This is the statement of intent. I don't want to show you a close-up of it because it has my docs, a lot of my docs, too much of my docs. But you can see here, there's my seal of Colorado on the piece of paper. And this one has a lot less of my docs. I should have shown you that page. This is my training acknowledgement form. This is the first trainee, who's me. I get to train myself. I sent both of these in to the Secretary of State, and I am awaiting my voter registration drive number. Now, since the reasons for looking into this, for using it for the Occupy movement, I got more reasons to do it, and the Occupy movement doesn't need it anymore. And some of them agreed with me when I went to their GA and I told them that this is the quick way to get co-opted politically if they start involving themselves with politics, you know. You actually have to affiliate yourself with the people who you're most akin to. So, since the free speech zones have been disavowed by everyone from the mayor to the city attorney to most of city council, I don't want to do it with the Occupy protesters that are there, you know. And this decision I made like a week or two ago, but this has been very hard for me to want to come out and say because I still feel that horrible guilt-like feeling like I have led a whole bunch of people to support this thing, and now I think that I want to support something else because of the direction it's going. So, yeah. I started my voter registration drive, and the first thing I did, the first action I did was to send in the statement of intent and first training form for me. The name of my voter registration drive is votingandaction.org. The name is pretty much derived from the two biggest complaints against the Occupy movement that I received that I had to field all the time. One was that if they were so butthurt about it, they should have voted for different people to get into office and different things would have happened. The other complaint was that sitting around doing nothing doesn't do anything. You need to actually have action, which after the protesters quit caring about Acacia Park in my city, they got a lot better at doing action. Their actions, were not received well by the general public all the time, and sometimes they were so divisive that protesters decided to leave the movement over them. And that's fine. I think that had to do with a lot of different perspectives coming to the same place, where everyone's just willing to protest with everyone else and support everyone else. I think that became a point where everything they decided to do, they lost another set of people. It didn't like split it in half every time. They maybe just lost one or two. But for instance, my own union, IBEW, the electricians union, the local here decided to pull their support of Occupy after they mic checked the governor. And the governor's Democrat, and he was backed by my union when he was mayor of Denver, and he has been their guy, and they're in bed together. And I understand that, the very next day, they probably were like, holy crap, what just happened? This group of people that we've been supporting just mic checked our guy, And a lot of people had this misconception, like Occupy was the Democrat version of the Tea Party, like they should never attack a Democrat. They should only attack Republicans, who are the problem. That's pretty common misconception. From day one, I kept on hearing that they should not let themselves be co-opted, and everyone should be held accountable. And I imagine that in the beginning of the Tea Party, that was what they tried to accomplish, was that don't get co-opted thing. And then they got co-opted. And I think most of the people who kept on saying don't get co-opted, don't get co-opted, were ex-Tea Partiers who saw what happens when things do get co-opted. So, yeah. You can go to my website. I've been working on it, votinginaction.org. Me and Dax and Ed have been talking a lot about what we want to do with this new direction. Personally, I want to have the high score of any person registering people to vote in the entire state. I don't know where the Secretary of State might keep these records, but I will be posting regularly on this channel and the Voting in Action channel on YouTube. I will be posting every score I get, as far as if I set up at an event and I'm just registering people left and right. I will tell you all how many people I did that day. I do have a few places that I want to target in my city, and I think having something at the end of the day, like a stack of paper that says each one of these pages is a registered voter, that's going to keep me motivated to do something more than, let's say, going to a bitch fest every night where somebody gets pissed off at somebody else. Although I will say that I had at least 3 drama-free General Assemblies since Christmas. And those were pretty much because not a lot of people showed up on those days. And we talked about things. But I think as of right now, I'm not going to another General Assembly for Occupy Colorado Springs until the group grows, because I just can't stand to see the same group of people, the same little group, infighting anymore. I think there's a chance when the snow lifts and spring comes and it's a lot easier to maintain a 24/7 presence in that park, that maybe there might be a resurgence in the local group. Now, the protesters in Denver, I'm probably going to go up there next week, and I might stay to see a lot of their stuff. Their group is a lot larger, and I think that is key, because if you have to see the same person every day and you don't like that person, or there's something that they don't like about you, it starts to wear on you. And a larger group that you can get lost in and find people that you like to be around is a lot more happy group, So hopefully I will find the strength to go back to see what they're doing in the spring. But I found something productive and something that I truly believe in, and I'm going for it. And I don't want to put any more energy or anything into that group anymore. So a couple of people have already seen my picture of my pen bowl. My pen bowl is in my truck right now. I don't want to go out because it's like 10 degrees outside. But my pen bowl is kind of like the Martha Stewart thing with the flowers that are taped to the pens, and then you have a fish bowl, and you have like rocks, and then you stick all the flowers in there, and no one's going to walk away with your pen because there's a flower on it. I have it with American flags. And all of my rocks in my bowl are red, white, and blue beads. And I think that sitting on my table when I'm registering people to vote will look kind of professional, kind of Martha Stewart secretary style, you know. Also, I have this over here. It's a whiteboard that I have. I need to get an easel so I can set up in certain locations, but this whiteboard, I drew everything on it myself. The two blue stripes are electrical tape, and the middle part is printed out. There's my URL. And if you go there, you'll see everything that we're planning coming together. Pretty good. So, that was a strange pan around this area of my room here. Yeah, I think I've gotten it all out. As far as my continued support of those protesters, anything that I have that is their equipment, I'll probably drop off if they need it. I'm going to continue to host the website, occupycs.org, and I will continue to support them with my chip-in for them, because all of the videos that I made over the last 4 months for them have the donation link, but I already made a video as to what those items would go toward, or, what those funds would go towards as far as items, and none of them would be items that would be easily co-opted, I guess, by what they want to do, it seems. They're pretty much like the projector and the projector screen and stuff like that. Stuff that would help education nights. And if I change tactics on that and just say that I can't even stand to look at them because of what happened, I'll probably make another video and say, I'll probably just talk directly to the people who gave money and ask them, do they want a refund or do they want me to give it to them? Because I'm just not there anymore. I'm moving on.